started. Yeah. Yeah, please go ahead.
Perfect. Are you able to see the screen?
Yeah, we can.
Perfect. So today we are going to talk about how to understand your child's emotions. And, we're also going to talk about having the diagnosis and some of the things to look out for when your child is being diagnosed with autism, and also the important questions to ask. So I found some wonderful standard questions to ask your doctor when a child is being diagnosed with autism, and questions to be able to ask them to make sure that you are getting the right resources. And this was according to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia Research and the Center for Autism Research. And there were wonderful questions to ask your doctor regarding the autism diagnosis. And also, one of the most important questions to ask is, what signs or behaviors did you observe that led to your conclusion? And there are many signs that can lead to an autism diagnosis, according to Autism Speaks. Now, one of the things with autism is sometimes there are social communication challenges. And many times children and adults with autism have difficulty saying what they want, difficulty expressing their emotions, and difficulty socializing. And they may not understand or appropriately use, spoken language. Sometimes their words are not in a formulated sentence like we talk, and their gestures are not always, appropriate in terms of the setting. There could be like hand flapping, hand waving when they get happy or excited, or when they're upset. Also, there's an issue with eye contact frequently. Now, oftentimes, they don't like to look directly in your eyes. So if you have a child that you may be telling them, hey, can you please look me in the eyes? And that may be very uncomfortable. So getting to know your child and how comfortable they are with eye contact is really important. Because emotionally, when we talk to people, we like them to look at us. And those with autism often have a difficulty in doing so. So we don't want them to become too overwhelmed or stressed if we're asking them to say, can you please look at me? It can be distressing, so you have to go about it in the right way. Also, they have difficulty with facial expressions and understanding facial expressions, and also with tone of voice. And when sometimes you use expression, sometimes they take it very seriously. So you have to be careful about what you're telling the child, because it's not always meant to be taken literally. And there are some other social challenges. And some of the social challenges is recognizing emotions, understanding one's own emotions, and being able to express that. Oftentimes when I'm working with different clients, what I see is they have trouble expressing what they want. So we're going to get into some of the things that are important to be able to use to help them become more expressive of what they're looking to get. And oftentimes I see a child having a tantrum because they are not getting something that they want, or something that had been bothering them. Sometimes I have clients who have problems itching. They'll be very itchy, or they'll have headaches. And one of my clients doesn't talk too much. So getting him to say what problem he's having is really important. Even if it's a simple word such as headache, or that I need a back scratch. Something just as simple as that at least gets to the point of why they are upset, why they're disturbed. Even if it's a simple word to start, that at least shows you what what their problem is. Sometimes sentences can be very frustrating, and you need to take it very slow with getting them to, say sentences. I've found it that it's easier for them to read sometimes than it is for them to speak in sentences. So even if it's one word, if you'll be able to know what the problem is, that is the important part. You got to what the problem is, and then you can figure out how to solve it and how to treat that problem. Also, feeling overwhelmed in social situations. Children with autism tend to like to be on their own rather than being around other children. And when it comes to being around other children, sometimes there's a lot of sensory, things going on in the classroom. One child could be playing this, one child could be playing that, and there's a lot of different noises in the classroom, and that could be very overwhelming to them, so they tend to retract and tend to like to play in their own area. Another thing is loud noises become very difficult for them and very distressed. And I think the difficulty when it comes to that is when the loud noise and they start to break down, they start to have a tantrum, they start to act in a scared manner when those loud noises like sirens and police cars like that. And yeah, they tend to cover their ears a lot, which is not, I don't think is a terrible way of coping with that. And one thing that you have to be able to also teach is helping them learn personal space. Sometimes children with autism tend to are not always able to understand how other people are feeling when it comes to space. They have to learn the appropriate distance between while having a conversation with somebody as well. And also there are restricted and repetitive behaviors, such as rocking back and forth, flapping the arms, spinning around, running back and forth. And I feel oftentimes it's kind of like a stimulating behavior for them, a soothing behavior, especially if they're completing a lot of tasks or also to express emotion. I've seen clients flapping their arms up and down when they're really happy or spinning around when they're really happy. It's just something they do sometimes when they're happy, but also it gives a certain stimulation in their brain when they do this activity that's very soothing. And it even helps, regulate the way they're feeling sometimes as well. And also, repetitive motions with objects. I've also found some of my younger clients loving cars, spinning the wheels on the toy cars and things that they can spin. They love spinning things, shaking sticks, flipping levers, staring at lights or spinning objects. And ritualistic behaviors I've also seen, lining up objects. They like to have things in a certain order, and even repetitively touching objects in a set order. Also, their interests sometimes are very limited to specific topics. They fixate their mind on specific topics. And sometimes it's difficult because they like this certain thing and you want to be able to transition them appropriately to another task. And I have some ways to be able to help you transition a child to another task so they don't get overly involved when you want them to do something else, or they're spending a long time on a certain task. They need to go to a next task. And also need for unvarying routine and resistance to change. Same daily schedule, meal menu, clothes, and route to school. It's very important to be able to have a structured system, especially also when you have therapy. If you're having ABA therapy at this time on this day, this time and that day, for some children it may not bother them as much, but for other children, if they don't have therapy in a consistent manner and they'll get used to a certain schedule, if it's a bit different, sometimes they'll get distressed. So if you notice that, maybe because they're used to the same schedule from this time to this time, Monday to Friday, I do ABA, or this day and this day, we do ABA from this time. It's better, I really find, to have a similar schedule going from, typically in America, what I've seen is ABA sessions typically last 2 hours. I don't know what it's like in India, but usually most people tend to do 2 hours, and at least, 3 or 4 times a week, what I've seen. And also, I think it's really important to try to get them to do similar things, because sometimes you may not always notice that if they're used to doing something a certain way and something's not done, that could be a reason why they're getting upset, because they realize, hey, isn't this supposed to be done now? Isn't this what we normally do? So they may become disturbed because they got used to something. And there are some really important questions to ask when being diagnosed, and also talk to your doctor about if any of your children have been recently diagnosed. There's important questions to ask. What signs or behaviors did you observe that led you to your conclusion of the autism diagnosis? What did you use what tools did you use to come to this diagnosis? Was it the DSM-5, which is a common book to help diagnose that's currently used? And also, how did I or my child perform on the tests that were used? You want to be able to know what was determined, and be able to get copies of the material so that you can best serve your child. And also, what level of support do you feel my child needs at school, in the community, at home? Also, asking them, is there any way I can get these ABA resources? Where can I look? In India, compared to the United States, it's very different. There's not as much services, and I want to see that change in India. And I do want to make a difference in India with that. And also, what other evaluations may need to confirm the diagnosis or help in treatment planning? And based on your observations, what therapies would be most beneficial? Also, what educational therapies and support will be needed? It's really important to know what therapies your children need. Typically, what I see is, at least in the United States, what I see children receiving is ABA therapy, speech therapy, OT, and physical therapy. But it all depends on your child's needs. Every child is different. Not every child is going to need the same therapies. And is my family eligible for any government support? What community resources are available to my family, including for the parents? It's important to have community resources, and depending on where you live in India, certain places are better for support than others. Also, do you have any recommendations for what I should tell my child about the evaluation or diagnosis. You have to determine, are you going to let your child know about what's going on? It also depends on, I think also what level they are on. And also, where can I get, more information? Is there any resources that are going to be really good for me to follow up on and read and learn more about what I can do? And also, when should my child be evaluated again? When should I come back and be evaluated again? And I think that it's important to ask these questions. It's really important because then you can be able to get better resources, be able to get better information for you to truly help your child. It's also important because an autism diagnosis can become very stressful on a family. And it is always important to remember to speak light over your children. Speak positive words. Don't speak negative words. If people around you are speaking negative words, just say, I cancel those negative words spoken over my child. And speak light, and it truly makes a difference. Words touch our souls, whether we're here in physical or whether we're not. If someone is talking about your child in a negative way, that can affect them spiritually. So it's good to say, I cancel those negative words. If there is any negative, that my child will succeed in life, that my child will do good things in life. And, you have to, change your perspective. And it's really important. Also, it is important to take time out with your spouse, your husband or wife, to have time just with you two, to be able to set aside some time to just be and spend time together. Especially having a child with autism, it could be stressing at times, emotionally. And it is important to be able to reconnect, because when you have a child with autism, you need a strong family unit. And it is important to set time and pick a certain day and pick a certain time where you can just spend time with your wife. You can just spend time with your husband and just talk about your dreams, talk about what you see in life, and just talk about you, talk about each other, and just focus on you guys for a short amount of time, especially having children on the spectrum. Sometimes you're so focused on your child. It's good to have time to focus on yourself too, to truly strengthen your relationship. Because when you have a child with autism, you need to make sure you have a strong bond, strong unit, that you guys are on the right page with things. And to really, value your time that you even have one-on-one. It's very important. Also, discuss treatment plans for your child. And make sure your husband or wife is on the same page as you. Sometimes you may have different ideas on what your child needs, and your husband may say different things, or your wife may say different things in different areas, and it's good to make sure you're on the right page. Make sure if you need ABA therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, or physical therapy, that you try to set that in place and try to keep as much of a routine as possible for that child. If possible, try to keep it at similar hours, because some children will get distressed if it's not set in order. Some children won't mind as much, but some will definitely notice. One of my clients, he notices when I don't show up. He notices if I have a family emergency and I don't come that day, he'll start looking for me. He'll be like, where is she? Where is she? Is everything okay? He'll start noticing that. So that's why it's important to keep a routine as much as possible. And it's also important to instill confidence in your child, because I notice that the more soft, being able to talk to them softly, learning to also manage that stress as a parent is very important, because autistic children are very sensitive to our emotions. So if we're getting frustrated, believe it or not, our child is going to feel that. That's going to be felt by the child. And even though they may not always express it, they can sense. They're very sensitive emotionally. And, being able to instill confidence in them, being able to just instill light into their life is so important. I've noticed a significant difference in even the reading comprehension of one of my clients, and just the vibrancy of him reading ever since I just focused on instilling confidence, saying positive things over him, getting him excited, talking in an excited, manner. And, he has really thrived on that. And also, it's important to follow your child's interests and let that be explored. If they like music, really explore that with them. If they like being outside, outdoors, explore that with them. Being able to get out with them, is important as well. It's important to let your child experience life. It's important for them to, be able to go to the park and be able to do those activities. But sometimes that could be difficult, depending on the child and their personality. And recognize every accomplishment your child has, even if it's something so small. Be like, you did such a great job today. You're doing fabulous. Let them know that they are doing so well. One thing I love is a reward system, such as a token economy. And it's good to talk with your ABA therapist about that. So say your child is working for one of these things. They're working to get candy or stickers or go to the park. Depending on what activity you're working through with them, if they're folding clothes and they're doing a very good job folding, at the end of that, you can give them a little sticker on the board and you can say, Brian, put a little sticker on your board. And every time they're working on an activity and completing an activity very well, you can add a token to the board. And once they have filled up that whole board, you can be like, good job, Brian, I'm gonna come take you to the park. And you could bring them to the park or let them play music, but they have to be working towards it. And sometimes it's very difficult, because they don't always want to do things. And if you can, if they're, having difficulty, if you can kind of, go over to them and kind of help them a little bit doing something, even if they're a little upset doing it, if they're working on that with you, it's important to try to do that, even if they're upset, to try to get done what you have intended to get done. One of the difficult parts is sometimes you say you're going to do something with a child and you don't end up doing it because it ends up being a tantrum, or it ends up being it's difficult. So if it's difficult, that doesn't mean you just stop doing it. No, because they don't want to do it. You're letting them, win. You have to keep on pushing. And it's not always easy. It's not always comfortable. But you have to really be like, okay, we're going to get this done. And you have to be firm in your decision to get it done. Because if you're not firm, they're going to learn that by doing the behavior, they can get out of it. They don't have to finish. And that's something I've seen before. Also, using emotion cards to help them understand emotions, having little cards for them to practice with. And you could also play online games for emotions. There's some great games online to be able to, they'll be able to press and interact with emotions, and they could choose. There could be like a list of 3 emotions, and say one of them's scared and one of them's sad and one of them's tired. They'll have to click, which emotion is this? And they'll have to click either scared, tired, happy, and it will tell them if they're right or wrong, which will help them in understanding those emotions. So there are a couple of things we have to look at when understanding a child's difficult behavior. We have to define what is happening. Are they screaming? Are they going to the floor, rolling around, crying? What is happening when they're having a difficult behavior? What is going on? What action are they doing? And also, how frequent is this happening? Is this happening twice a week? Is this happening almost every day? And also, we like to see, okay, what is happening before the meltdown? What is happening before the difficult behavior happens? You really have to understand a couple of things so then we can find the best resources to target that. We have to understand frequency. We have to understand what is happening. We have to try to notice patterns so we can understand if the child is, especially if the child is nonverbal and doesn't speak in sentences. We have to see what's going on. We have to look at a few things before we decide how to tackle that. And it's always good to learn how to prevent the behavior. We do not want to react. Sometimes that's what I see. Parents don't always react the way they should because when their child is kicking and screaming, they might have to deal with that a lot. So you have to learn to not react emotionally and not let your child observe that, because they will notice things even if they're not speaking. They will notice the way you're reacting to their behavior. Are you getting frustrated? Is someone raising their voice at them? Be very careful about how you're reacting, because again, they're very, very sensitive. Another great thing is using the word I want. It's one of the most basic sentences that says a lot, okay? So when your child is kind of like, maybe not having a meltdown, but maybe they're trying to express something and you don't understand what they're trying to express. Having a board made, like the I want board, is very important. I really find it truly beneficial because you have different things they like on it and they can see the things that they like, the objects that they like. See many different things on here. It could be juice, it could be a food item that they really like, and it's made of Velcro. And you stick them on and you say, I want, they say, I want jump. Okay. Again, later on we could get them to say even more, but at least they're saying, I want jump. So then if they want jump, maybe you can let them outside to jump on the trampoline. That's if you have one. If they like the TV, I want TV. Get them to say, I want. And it's something you have to instill in your child over and over again for them to get the idea and for them to express that. I want, they may point to apple and say, can you say apple? You can even break it down. If they're nonverbal, even I think this board can be beneficial because they know what they like and they can point to the item for you. And then they can pick out something. And if they're upset, sometimes it may be because they want one of the items. You don't know. It could be. So being able to have a board like this for verbal or nonverbal children, I think could be beneficial because if they at least point to what they want, they can, you could prevent, them getting really upset because now you at least know what they want. So this is one of the things that I find very beneficial too, because children sometimes, it's easier for them to see things laid out in front of them than for them to just say it off their top of their head. So this is why I think this is brilliant. I believe that this can help communication, and I believe one of the main reasons I see tantrums is because a lot of times it's communication. A lot of it's because they don't know how to say what they want. So they get upset because maybe they're thinking of something or see something and want it. Sometimes they may walk up to it and grab it. Or they may try to grab it out of your hand, but you have to reinforce, hey, no, this is not the way you react. And you have to let them know, because they're just trying to get the item they want, but you have to let them know that that's not appropriate behavior. If you have bubbles, you have to say, get them to say, I want bubbles. And if they're nonverbal, you have to get them to show them how to point to it. And you can still say, I want, you can still train them in that manner. I would still do that, even if they're nonverbal. And you could really fill it up with anything you want, anything the child likes. And, I've really, I've done this before with a nonverbal 3-year-old. So I've had good success with being able to help the child with it and help him get what he wants. So, yep. There's also the first then board. If your child, it's very similar to, you can have the Velcro items and stick it on. And the first then board is, maybe your child is running somewhere to go get something, and you're like, well, they have to do something else first. Okay? First, we're going to go wash our hands. And say they were just in the bathroom. First, they have to wash their hands. Then you can go play, or you can go play with the toy that they wanted to play with. Maybe they're running to that toy. Oh, no, first you have to do this. Then we can do that. And sometimes that's difficult too, because they just, sometimes focus on that one item and they want to run right to it. But you have to teach them, first we're going to do this, then we're going to do this. And I feel like it really does help their emotions, because they get less frustrated, because when they want something and you don't understand what they want, sometimes they'll have a tantrum because of that. And at least, even if they don't always say, if they're nonverbal, you can say it with them. You can practice saying it just like you would with a child who is verbal. You have to do the same way, but they may not say it. That's the difference at that time. But just keep on working with them on that. Also, I find very important for the visual boards for daily activities, like the ADLs. It's important to be able to have a routine. Also, maybe a routine board of, what do you do in the morning? First, we do this, then we do this, then we do this, and then we do this, Throughout the day, what activities are we doing? It helps them, get into a schedule and a routine. That's one of the best things you can have for your child, is a routine. Also, it's good to have visual boards that will take the child throughout potty training, if the child is in their potty training stages. Visual board of, this is what we do first, and all the steps of potty training. Also, same with brushing teeth, showering, and washing hands. I find the children really like this, and I feel like by having a visual board and showing them, You can walk them through the steps each time, but also show them the board. And it kind of gives them something to look at. So I find that beneficial as well. Now I also have some lists of great activities for children, depending on what level they're at. Again, counting books are great for children. Also learning how to, count money. If you're in the store with them, teaching them the ability to, say an item is $3 or however much rupees in India, teaching them to count that and being able to have them apply that could also give them confidence. So if you're in the store with them and they're able to count, you can help them, but they can learn, the practical application of counting. And then they can feel confident that they're doing that. Practical application is great. I work with a client and we count $5, $10, $20 bills, and we even count by 5s and 10s and 20s on the trampoline. They enjoy that. And, lay each one out as you teach them how to count. And you could also have the amounts on the paper so they could learn and refer to that. And then you can collect the fake money. And then you can, they'll also improve on their fine motor skills by grabbing the bills and handing them back to you as they count. And again, they can, do counting when they're on the swing or taking a walk or jumping on the trampoline. Also, they can write a subtraction or addition problems, and you can help guide them on the calculator. And when they are good enough at that, then you can kind of let them do that on their own. And a great website I found for math games is mathplayground.com. So if anyone also wants to be able to write that down, I find it really fun and the children really like that. And there's also a game called Giraffe Dash for practicing telling time. But again, this game is for students with a little bit more of an advanced time knowledge, and that could do that at a little bit of a faster speed. But it's great practice for those students who are pretty good at time. And also being able to do clipping papers for their fine motor skills is really great too. Yeah, so also sorting envelopes by zip codes, folding papers and putting them in envelopes, teaching them how to set a table, folding their laundry, and also a preference assessment. And a preference assessment would be when you show them 2 items and you would have them pick the item that they want, pick the item that they like. And then you would do that with another item. So you'd get an idea of what items they prefer. So even you can bring that into the reward system as well, which I find great. Now, there's this book that I find great for reading and speech practice, and it's called Hop on Pop by Dr. Seuss. So if your children are learning English, Hop on Pop is a fabulous book for English practice. So I teach children how to read slower, so they're not reading as quickly and their words are more pronounced clearly. And I love using this book. And I teach them how to use their pointer finger to read slowly, word by word. So you teach them how to do one finger on each word so they go slower and don't read as fast. And I help them and I guide along my finger as well, just to help them stay on track. And I also just have some daily activity songs for some of the younger children. If they speak English, because there's some like brush your teeth song, wash your hands song, bath song, which for younger students, oh, they love it. They love this song, and it teaches them how to get really interested in washing your hands and brushing your teeth and taking a bath. So yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ashley, for sharing all this information. We have 20 more minutes, so we can start with the questions which are in the chat box. I'm seeing right now there are only two questions. Uh, One is from Kiran. So, Kiran, are you there?
Hey, good morning. Yes, I'm here.
Hi, good morning. Yeah, so you can ask your question. I'm seeing here
Hey,
doorbell
thanks
sound.
for thanks for the opportunity. Hey, good morning, Ashley. Hey, so my question is, so every time the doorbell rings, my kid don't like the sound of the doorbell. So the thing is like she don't like people coming in house. So any suggestions, tips?
I'm so sorry I missed that. I actually got the call actually ended when I had to hop back in the call when I was doing my presentation. I got out by accident. What was your question?
The question is this: that my kid. So if someone comes in, say for example, relatives or friends, neighbors, she don't like them coming in. For and but once they come in, right, she will be very friendly. But the only problem is when they enter the house. And also, she don't like this, the doorbell sound, right? If someone rings the doorbell, she don't like that. She's so frustrated. She's 6 year old and she stay in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm. So, so when the doorbell rings, she doesn't like it. So I want to know also, how does she behave when the doorbell rings? What is the action, and what does she do?
She just runs and try to hide behind someone, or maybe behind the door, maybe in the closet or pantry.
Mm-hmm. I think that also, I have a suggestion for you. Also, even if you or your wife or one of your family members that she's very comfortable with, you guys can kind of practice ringing the doorbell at times when you're, when she's inside and you are on the outside, and being able to then open the door and come in and being like, everything's okay. Yeah. Just trying to show her that it's okay. Like it's just, the sound. And I think the sound is, the sound of the bell disturbs her. So I think it's, very hard to just be like, okay, well, that sound's not going to go away. It's a sound that continually happens, and it may bother her, but it's just getting her more used to having that sound around and being able to say, it's okay. It's just me. It's just, being able to show her that it's just people notifying that they're coming in. And maybe also, is there an activity she really likes to do? What's some of her interests?
She likes painting. She likes jumping, trampoline. She
Mm-hmm.
likes walking, running, playing with the ball, bubbles.
Maybe also integrating an activity. Also integrating when people are integrating an activity she likes, like bubbles, like, just trying to take her mind off of the sound and realizing that what is coming is a good thing. What is coming, like the people that are coming are nice, because it seems like it's not necessarily the people, what it sounds like, because you say once they enter she's okay, right? Is that what you were saying?
That's right.
Okay, so what we know is it's the doorbell. It's not the people. It's not the act of the people coming. It's the act of the sound of the doorbell. So that means that The doorbell sound is not going to go away. What we have to do is get her less interested in focusing on the doorbell, and distracting her with another activity, getting her into, say, bubbles, for example. If she likes bubbles, it's good to, be able to bring the bubbles out when people are coming in, or get her distracted in some other activity. Because there's no way around not hearing the doorbell ring, right? So getting her distracted, getting her into another activity, being like, it's okay. And just, how often do people ring the doorbell? Like, how often does people come and do that?
Yeah, so I'll add a little bit more to this question. Usually she don't like. So our therapist name is also Ashley. So usually she don't like therapist coming in, right? So I don't know. Probably that relates to this, because every time when therapist comes in, obviously she ring the bell, and then my kid thinks, okay, now I have to sit for 2 hours with her, right? So I'm not sure if that relates to this, but yeah. So I think she got, acquired this behavior, right? Every time someone rings the doorbell, she sometimes says, "Hey, I don't want Ashley," something like that. And every time, right? Even neighbors comes, I don't know, maybe she's thinking like therapist is coming in, right?
How long has she been in therapy and or with a therapist?
Like unfortunately we are keep switching, the therapist. The new therapist, it's like 3 months.
Okay. So it's still, she's been there for a little bit, but, again, it takes sometimes. Okay. So there was some experience on all these different, new people coming in. So there might have been, something in her mind about, things change,
True.
So she kind of said, "Oh, what's going on? Like, I'm seeing new people every every so often." So if the fact is, therapists are keep changing, yeah, there, depending on where you are, certain agencies tend to do a better job on keeping the same therapist. I don't know the reasoning for why the therapists keep leaving. I will say that that's a common thing in the ABA field. Usually, depending on which agencies. Some agencies are better at retaining the therapists, while others, not as much. It really depends. It really depends how often the person works. It depends on a lot of personal situations. It's unfortunate in this field that happens, because she's seeing so many, different faces, right? How many different therapists have you had within, let's say, the last year?
Last year only 2, but we started therapy from last 3 years, and we switched 3 therapists, 3 BCBAs. It's like 6 new faces.
Okay. So also she's seeing that there's things changing, and I think she's maybe noticing, okay, why are so many people coming? And it sounds like she does like some sort of consistency. Now also, if she's not liking this, what is the therapist doing with the child? You know what I mean? What are they working on? What skills are they working on? Are they really getting up, and if she likes running or moving around, what is she doing with her in the things that she likes to take a break? Because sitting down and working for 2 hours is very hard to be able to do that. So being able to take, frequent breaks, and even if they go outside, if you have a backyard, doing something fun in the backyard while still integrating learning and what she's interested in is very important. That's what I would suggest.
Cool. Sounds good. Thank you so much, Ashley.
No problem. Also, there are some other questions here.
Yeah, there is one Gaurav. I guess we asked one question.
Okay.
Yeah, hi. Am I audible?
Yeah, we are audible.
Yes. So my question is regarding that same, Ashley, the point you have touched a little bit. Like, okay, when the kids is like, okay, crying, meltdown, how to take them out from that situation. Because, and it happens like, okay, example for my kid, he's happily playing, is nothing like, okay, he's running and he's doing, but all of a sudden if someone sings the ABC rhyme, immediately he will be out from that like, okay, wherever he is playing, he will run from there and he will start crying.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, this is a one example, but in general, like, okay, whenever they are in a bad mood or in a difficult conditions, how to get out from that condition.
Can you explain the situation one more time? So he likes the ABC song.
So he used to, like, okay, when he was young,
Yep.
he used to, like, okay, listen and he likes that. But now, like, okay, at like, okay, a little elder stage, like, okay, he is in a 6.5. So now if someone sings that rhyme, or even someone says those alphabets in the same flow, initially even the 4 alphabets, he will start crying.
That's really interesting. You know, because I notice a lot of children, if they're even singing an ABC song, even as they get older, they still like similar things. But it seems like there must have been something that had happened associated with the ABC song, and something happened at the same time that he didn't like, and that he could have associated that negative thing with the ABC song. I'm not sure exactly what the root of that issue is. But it seems like he had something negative. For him to suddenly like that song for a while and then have a different emotional reaction to it, it sounds like something happened while someone was doing that song that he didn't like, and he had associated that memory with the song. Could have been. I'm not sure.
Okay, so that is fun. So my point was like, okay, if he's crying, like, okay, that's a one example, but if it get into that condition and in like general, like, okay, that happens, like, okay, all other kids also, like, okay, the similar stuff, how to, like, okay, get out from that situation, like, okay, how to bring them in a good mood, what can we do? Like, some things happens, like, okay, we are out, but if kids starts crying, even though at a home they start crying, then how to bring them out from that bad mood condition?
Okay. Now, every child reacts differently. Some
Okay.
child I will see doing a tantrum, and then I'll be able to bring out something that they like and kind of try to get them emotionally out of that, because sometimes it's good to let a child experience emotions. So if they're, you know, crying, they may need to sit down for a couple of minutes in a corner and just, you know, let their emotions out. But a lot of times also it's good to be able to transition them to another activity to get them to be like, okay, well, you're crying now, so what can we do to kind of bring you out of that? What activities does he like? What activities does he like doing? What's his favorite items? What's his favorite things?
That mainly depends upon, like, okay, his mood. Like, okay, sometimes he likes, like, okay, going on the terrace, playing over there, or a few times, even though he enjoys reading, sometimes listening a particular song, he will say, okay, I want to listen that song. So it's not.
Have you
Yep.
tried doing that with him? Some of those things with him when he is upset, and how he reacts to that?
Sorry.
Like if he's upset or crying in the mood, if he hears that song or is doing something else, have you tried to, like, how does he react when you bring?
Yes. So we try, like, all the things which he likes, and again, that time, like, okay, we don't know what exactly he wants, because he doesn't want anything at that point of time. So we are playing some songs. Few times it happens, like, okay, he will be fine, like, okay, he'll come out from that mood, and he will be come into that, okay, rhythm of the song, and then slowly, once he come into the rhythm of the song, then he's out from the mood. But sometimes he's stuck to there, because maybe in the mind he wants something else, and which he is not able to communicate.
Okay.
So
I would suggest, like I did in, and I'm sure the PowerPoint could be shared to other people, you know, because I want everybody who wants this information, I want to be able to get it to the people who want this information in the PowerPoint. Anything that's helpful that I could, you know, get to people and they want to look over it, I want to make sure I have that for them. The I want board. I want
okay.
board. Absolutely great for him, even when he's upset. How does he, so he, what's his, is he able to, does he speak in sentences? Does he just say words, or what?
He can speak in sentences, but not always. But sometimes, like, okay, he will speak up full sentences, like, okay, I want this. And a few times he will just say the word and leave the sentence over there only, like, okay, half sentence, even though the particular word. So if he want, like, okay, say that, okay, I want pen. So he will just say pen and leave it. And sometimes he complete the sentence. So it's like, okay, not completely non-verbal or verbal. So he's in the mid of stage.
Okay. I think the I want board would be great,
Yeah,
because
that
you
would be
can
great.
give them multiple, like so many different choices. There can be like a multitude of things. You know, there can be a bunch of different activities, and if he's upset, maybe he will. You can try take to that activity. Maybe he'll take to one of those activities that will really uplift him, and give him a bunch of choices laid out in front of him, so he could, you know, kind of choose what he, if there would be any engagement there. And if not, I would definitely try to redirect his behavior again to another activity. And even if he keeps on, you know, crying or get upset, try to get him, you know, to be able to lift his spirits up by, you know, trying different things. And sometimes it just takes trial and error. Sometimes you don't always know what that child might want and what he might want to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Yeah,
I
thanks.
want that, and then the board with first and then would be great too.
All right.
Sure. Yeah, if you can share the PPT, that would be great. Like, okay, with the
Perfect. I want to make
if you
sure
can
I'm
schedule
able to
promote,
share
Yeah,
then we
sure.
can.
anyone,
Yeah.
anyone who needs
Sure.
it.
I'll share that with everyone. Okay. We have 2 more minutes, and we have a number of questions. So what we can do here? What do you say, Ashwini? I mean, can we extend it for next 10 minutes?
Yeah, we can extend it.
All right, but let's stick to that question only. Okay, to
Yeah.
utilize the time. Okay, so next is Pulkit. What core activities do you suggest for 2.4-year-old child to develop life skills? Life skills for 2.4-year-old. Is it too much expectation?
I I think that you know, it is a very young age. So at that age, it's very. I've worked. The youngest I've worked with is three-year-old, almost going into 4. So I've worked with children around that age, and at that age, a lot of what's going to be done is a lot of, you know, teaching them how to do things, teaching them how to play, um, having them, you know, learn about animals, and you know, playing with different things that they like it at that age. At that age, they you know, you can show them, you know, different activities, and like, you know, how to brush your teeth. Show them different things about you know, how to take a shower. You know, like it's still a young age, but teaching them a lot of those skills, like taking a shower, you know, if they're potty trained, if they're not potty trained, potty training, stuff of that nature, teaching them about animals, reading different books to them, having different items. Puzzles are fabulous. Puzzles with different like fruit items and different animals and different puzzles are great. At that young of an age, you don't want to put too much. You kind of want to go with their interest, but getting them to put together puzzles. There's a technique I do, and I call it pat technique. And the children love it. It's being able to put two puzzles together of words that are important words, like different fruits and vegetables and animals. And you would help them put them together, and then you would say pat, and you would pat the puzzle piece together. And the children really do love that. I've worked with some children, and they love being able to pat down the puzzle, even if it's put in place. You can help them put it in, but you can teach them pat. And then it kind of, starts teaching them, okay, following directions. Teaching them like touch your nose, touch your eyes, touch your ears, touch your mouth. And then also, being able to do different activities with them, repetition activities, like stand up, sit down, jump, and putting them in a different order and seeing how well they can pay attention to copying you. Activities like that are really important. Yeah?
Yeah, all right. So next is Mona. So Mona, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Hi, Ashley.
Hello.
Uh, so I have five-year-old son.
Okay.
So and recently I'm blessed with another baby. He's now 2 months old. So the problem started after the baby came in. So my elder son, this 5-year-old son, he wants attention. So he stops me when I'm in any work like cooking, watching TV. When I'm not putting any attention on him, he'll come back. He'll come and he'll try to disturb me. So he will either take me back, or he will start speaking with me, or he wants to take me somewhere or something like that. This happens even if I'm with the baby, mostly if I'm with the younger baby, when I hold him or when I'm trying to feed him. So he comes and he tries to distract me, and in the process he sometimes try to disturb the baby also, like trying to pull his arm or open his eyes or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to be patient with him. We understand probably it's his way of grabbing attention, but then sometimes we really lose our patience. Like we end up beating him or shouting at him, and he becomes the situation goes from worse, right? So I don't know any techniques to handle this kind of situation.
So I think the important thing is, being able to, one of the things that, yelling at him, raising the voice, hitting, it's all going to make behaviors worse.
Yes.
It's going to make him more upset, more, and what you don't want to
Aggressive,
do is
angry.
being able to, what happens then is sometimes they can get, if they've been, doing something around that time, like something that
Mhm.
they could enjoy again, they might not, like
Yes.
to do that same activity because they're linking, okay, I was blowing bubbles and this thing happened that I didn't like. I don't want to blow the bubbles because I remember it
Yes.
happening
Yes.
during the same time. Okay. And
Right.
this happens to children, this happens to adults, it happens to just about any of us. So,
Okay.
it's important. Now, when you're caring for your baby, is there anyone else around you, or is it just you in the house caring for your two children at that time? A lot of
No, even if people are there, like my husband and the caretaker, even if they are there, sometimes he leaves, sometimes he doesn't mind it, but there will be times when he wants to come. He purposefully comes and try to disturb the baby or try to disturb me. So there'll be people around, so I usually ask them to support him or go with him or do things, but he will be very insisting. He wants only me to come. It's not just me, even with my husband also he does the same thing, like when he's carrying the baby or when he's doing something else. Like we observed this behavior only after the baby is born. He was not like this before.
Okay,
So
so there
I'm
seems like some
assuming.
jealousy, some jealousy over the, baby.
Yes, yes.
He was used to having the attention, and now the attention is split, and
Diverted.
more than one person. Now,
Yes.
when you need to take care of the baby, and you have
Mhm.
someone else around,
Mm-hmm.
you need to get things done, and you
Mhm.
can't have him, coming up to you and, having certain times where, when the baby goes down for, being able to have that individualized, time with him,
Okay.
or trying to
Okay.
send set aside some time and try to make it, as consistent as you can, to be like, okay, we're going to do this on this day and maybe do this activity with mama and do that, being able
Okay.
to have some time where it's just you and him, or
Mm-hmm.
it's just,
Right.
having some time where it's just you, dad, and him, and also,
Okay.
some time with you and then some time with dad, and then, so he feels like, okay,
Secure.
so I am getting some time. And try
Mm-hmm.
to integrate that in where it's just you and him, or it's just dad and him, or it's just me, dad, and like it, kind of in a way like it used, a way like
Used
it,
to be. Yes.
because it's important for him to have that as
Mm-hmm.
well,
I
because then
do that.
more
Like I understand that, and I do that. Like whenever, like when I'm not with the baby and when I'm free, I try to give maximum attention to him, sit with
but
him,
then
play
he
with him.
wants more.
Ha. I think he doesn't like the diversion. So, like at that point of time, how to console or how to divert him, like how to stop these disturbances from happening.
Yeah, so I
Uh,
think it's important to be able to, if it's going to be a struggle at first, I believe,
mm-hmm.
to be able to divert his attention, because you're going to need to take him to another area where you are not there, because he needs to
Yes.
understand mom needs to do something else now. It's not my
Yes.
time to, and it
Mm-hmm.
may take a while for him to fully understand that. But
Yes.
again,
So,
like if someone else is with you, you need to pull them
mm-hmm.
aside, and be like,
Okay.
okay, can you help him do an activity or something he really likes, get him to do that. But even if he keeps on whining and whining and
Mm-hmm.
whining, there just has to be, a redirection to an activity
Okay.
that he does enjoy, which sometimes may be difficult, because sometimes a child will want a tantrum because he's not getting what he
Yes.
wants, and he needs to get used to it, that it's not always going to be like that. And sometimes a
Yes.
child just needs to adjust.
Mm-hmm.
Had a bit not too long ago, so it's still new to him. So he needs a
Yes.
little time to readjust. But if he sees you all the time and sees the baby and sees you when he's in the area, he's going to be fixated on that. And that's why
Yes.
moving him to another room with, another person helping him out
Okay.
would be a great start to redirect
Okay.
him to another activity, and just kind of,
Yes. Yes.
if he's tantruming, if he's acting up, have a corner, like
Mm-hmm.
make like a calm corner in his room or some area where he's at, where you can kind of set up like
Okay.
something. Like a child I know had a small little tent and some
Yes.
pillows
Yes.
and blankets, and we called it the
Yes.
calm corner. So whenever they
Okay.
get upset and get tantrums, we'd put them in the calm corner so they can go
Mm-hmm.
relax.
Okay.
Sometimes I don't know what they call those blankets, but it's like a slightly chilled. If they're really
Okay.
it's like a slightly
Mm-hmm.
chilled blanket. I don't know. It's a
Okay.
cool. I think it's like
Quilt.
a cool
Yes.
blanket.
Yes.
It feels
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
cool, and it's like, it's soothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes it just takes time. Sometimes they just
Okay.
need to, get used to that and redirect to another activity, because if you don't do that, they're just going to continue doing that behavior.
True. True.
So
Yeah.
doing activities like he likes, and if he's really tantruming, you're going to go to the calm corner and you're going to sit there and wait, and you can come out when you're calm, and then
Okay.
you can do another activity. But mom's busy
Right.
right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashley.
No problem.
Yeah.
All right. Next is Shri. Shri, are you there?
Yeah. Hello. Hello, Ashley.
Hello.
No, the major problem is my kid is 11 years. And how to teach the emotions means that he is happy or sad or angry. This is called happy, this is called sad. How to make him understand?
I love the emotion cards.
Yes,
To
baby,
be
what are
honest.
you doing?
Yeah, the emotion
Hey.
cards are great. They really help.
1 second. Emotion cards means simply the cards and tacting that cards means I have to ask how is this girl. Then he has to say angry.
And also, you can express different emotions while you sit down with him. Be like, I'll just use an example. Like, Matthew, this is happy, and show him, the card that says happy. It's that's one of the best ways I know how to describe, and teach emotion is, showing the child that, in like when they're happy, say happy, happy, and then say your child's name. Happy.
Okay.
Experiencing that, say happy, and they'll start realizing, oh, this means I'm happy. And then when you see them happy, be like happy. When you see them sad, say sad. You're sad right now. Just continue saying those words.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. 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 Thank you. Yeah.
you're welcome.
All right. So next, and this is the last question from Mansi.
Ashley, you had a great webinar. I really gained a lot of knowledge. I just wanted to ask one thing. My son is 10, he's expressive, he's verbal, uh, but he doesn't want to play independently. He's a single child. I do play with him. He can pretend play. He does make stories. Like, whenever he is sitting idle, he has something in his hand, like an eraser or something. He's extremely fond of cartoons like Paw Patrol and Peppa Pig. He does say stories aloud at times, self talking when he's doing a little bit. He doesn't do a lot of self talking, but whenever he's sitting idle and he's making up his stories. But when I bought him a few things, like, the figurines of Paw Patrol and all. So, but when I tell him that you have to play with it for 10 minutes, or I need to do this work, you play with this thing for 10 minutes, he won't do that. If his toy is kept in the cupboard, I tell him to bring it out, that let's play. His first reaction is, I don't want to play.
Okay.
He doesn't want to play alone. How do I uh, uh, get that thing better? If I am playing with him, he's okay.
Okay. So actually, in a way, for that's good, because that's good socialization skills. So
Yeah,
the fact
my son is actually Down syndrome,
oh,
so socialization is not an issue with him.
okay,
He loves to socialize.
very good, very good. I would also try to get him like uh, interactive games, like
Okay.
stuff that he could do on like the computer and iPad that could help him learn. I don't know what how much his level of level of knowledge, of level of skill set. I'm not sure, but being able to get him like interactive games where he can still sit
Okay.
alone somewhere and do something, but
Mm-hmm.
start him, like, even if he's playing with other people in a game, or
Yeah.
playing with other people doing some educational game that he really enjoys. Does he like to be on the computer? Does he like to do, or what?
Yeah, he does like, but either he tries to write something. We're teaching him to write something on the on MS Word. So he tries to paint or do MS Word for like 5-7 minutes, not more than that. And while he's playing on the computer or the tab, then he can play, yeah, like, some uh, games, racing games and all. That he can do. Otherwise, he's not too interested, and he has visual issues, so I don't give him a lot of screen time.
Yes, I mean, it's not good to get in, because so many parents do really do a lot of screen time for their children, and that's a good thing. That's actually a good thing. I think the fact is that, you know, again, he loves being social.
Yeah.
He loves being, and I'm just figuring out how to best approach that, because usually I see the exact, you know, opposite.
Yeah, I know.
Him, maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like games he could play on his own.
Yeah, that
Um,
would be great.
finding games he can play on his own that he'll really enjoy. It may be a challenge, but I think that it could be something you could try finding games that he like enjoyed that he can do on his own. And I think that's a bit more difficult.
Yeah, but I'll definitely try and figure that out.
It's definitely tied to his like personality of who, you know, who he is as a person.
Mhm.
It's good to learn to do different things, but you know, if you're playing alone, sometimes some children just don't like playing alone. They don't.
Okay,
You know,
so that means it's okay. We as parents feel overwhelmed if something is missing.
yeah, it's not. I really feel like it's more of a personality thing. It really does seem that way.
If that is the concern, then I should not be, over
Don't be
concerned about it.
worried about it.
Okay.
Because if a child is playing alone, what do they have to do? Use imagination.
Yeah. He
And
does imagine sometimes, not.
to have, yeah, but sometimes you like to have that sensory like play with someone else. Some children just
Yeah.
really like it. It's
Okay.
not, you know, it's not really a big issue that I would be concerned about, because he just likes being around people, and there's nothing wrong with that. There
Okay.
just has to be times where you're not always going to be around people.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
there's different ways to teach him that, not necessarily with playing with a toy, or because that's just, you know, who he is. But finding other ways for him to do activities where it's just him is great.
Yeah.
Jumping on the trampoline, going to the park, swinging on a, you know, swing, even if, you know, you're not, you know, talking to him while he's swinging, just swinging and enjoying things,
Okay.
just being him. Finding
Yeah.
ways to do that. That's important.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot. Thanks a ton for your input, Ashley.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Ashley, for answering all these questions. And I would say it was a wonderful session, and I believe everyone has gained a lot of information. So we will keep continuing such sessions in coming months. And if in case anyone has any question, they can share with us. I shared a number in chat, and from there we will take it up. All
I
right.
also, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Go ahead.
also wanted to mention, someone did ask a question, and someone, you know, asked a question on their child with hypoischemic encephalopathy. And I happened to find an article that might be of use to them. I would suggest that they go to their doctor. But I found an article that might be helpful for whoever that was who sent that inquiry. So I don't know who, but
Yeah, I will check with them.
sure.
Yeah, share with me that article. I will share with everyone if it can be a help for anyone.
Yeah.
All right, then I guess we are good for now. Thank you, everyone. Thank
Thank
you, Ashley, once again. Yeah,
Thank you all for joining, and I hope you've learned wonderful new material, and I hope you all have a blessed night.
thank you.
Thank you.